Hi everyone, welcome back to us modeling the IED toy train in Onshape. So just a comment here as I start this one. Um, this is not the assembly where I'm building the parts. I'm in the part studio, right? And so even if I didn't model these parts in place where they go on the train, I can still fix them back together the way they should go in the assembly. So I could disregard where they're supposed to go, but I'm trying to honor the concept and the theory of modeling things where they're in relation to each other a little bit. And so at least to start there, we would have to have things in the right kind of relational space to each other if we were going to be using projected geometry and some of those relationships to drive dimensions and sizes. So just keep that in mind. And it would be possible to hide all your parts and just kind of start modeling a new part, and they might not be in the exact same place. They may be on top of each other really if you made them all visible, but I'm trying to not do that. So this won't look like a finished assembly as we start moving forward, because when I put a wheel here, I'm not going to model the wheel 4 times. I'm just going to model it once. And so I'm just going to pick one of the holes, axle holes, in which to model the wheel up against. Okay. The other thing, I'm going to select one of the parts over here on the left. At the end of the last video, I wasn't sure, at least I couldn't remember, and once I figured it out, I remembered that I had seen this before, how to pull up the mass properties. And it's this little icon down in the bottom right corner of your graphic window. So with that part selected, I can come here, left click, and I can get the mass, volume, surface area, all that. So there you go, just to answer that question from the previous video. Okay, so let's begin. I'm going to create a work plane that goes right through the center of that. The center of that hole was a 1/2 inch off the bottom of the train, so I'm going to choose the bottom of my train body, and I'm going to do a 1/2 inch offset to get that plane right there. And then that's going to become my sketch plane. And I'm going to press N to turn normal to it. And here's another trick. Actually, I'm going to just kind of drag that around. I really want to be able to see that hole. To me, it's kind of nicer to have that view. And so I'm going to turn on a section view. All right, and I had already selected, I had done this and undid it, but it's remembering that I had selected the plane. So if I had not done that, I would click section view, and this pops up. You want a section view, and you've got to pick the section plane. So that new plane I just created is what I'm going to select, and there you go. So that's kind of a nice view to work on, and now I'm still inside the sketch. And that plane, that section plane, let's see, I can hide it, that plane I used. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to rotate that orientation. Okay, now I'm going to make a couple construction lines to help me out. So I want to have the middle of that. Let me turn on the line tool, and I'm going to make it a construction line right here. That means it's going to be dashed, and it's not letting me find the midpoint right here, although it might allow me to use that point, right? And if I didn't have that, I could make a line extending across here, and then find the midpoint of that point and come out this way. But this right here is just giving me a reference line that I can find the middle of that hole pretty easily, okay? And now, I know a toy, having the wheel rub up against the body would create friction and not be great, but that is, in essence, what we've got. And so I'm just going to go ahead and model it in that way, all right? And so, I could use the line tool and wrap my way around. I could also, let me project geometry to get that side referenceable. Okay. All right, I'm not exactly, we'll go back and remember dimensions. I'm just going to make a rectangle here, and make a smaller rectangle inside here. And then I'm going to use the trim tool, and I'm going to get rid of this piece right there, like that. And then I'm going to use the 3-point arc to add a semicircle to the end, right there. And I'll even use the trim tool to get rid of that. says it could not trim this selected entity, but it trimmed what I wanted to trim at least. So, all right. That's the general profile. I'm going to add some dimensions, and then after it's correctly dimensioned, then we'll add some fillets. So let me go back to my train drawings, and here you go. So from the center, they have given us dimensions to key points. You see that I've got things squared off, but this line gives me that perpendicular edge where I would have it. So that's all these dimensions are coming from the center of the axle, or that axle hole. So we're going to go 1/4, 3/4, and 1. So it'll be from that little rectangle I had on the inside, 1/4 to the beginning, 3/4 to the end, and a whole inch to the center of that arc. Okay, so if we can remember that. So from this construction line, this was going to be right here. Sorry, 1/4. I almost grabbed the wrong thing. And then it's going to be 3/4 to here. And then we're going to be 1 inch to here. So that's going to help get my lengths. I do need to know this distance right here as well. And they don't show it in this view, but if you come down to this view on the back of the wheel, this leader line is pointing to the hole, and they're letting us know that that hole for the axle has a diameter of 0.28. Now this is radius I'm going to provide, so I need to half the 0.28. There you go. I don't know, it's kind of creating a dimension line or extension line to dimension something that I don't want, so I need to make sure that it's in here. And half of 0.28 is 0.14. There you go. Now I need, in this view here, I need this dimension. And oh, this got all messed up on me, right? So I think that's because my arc is no longer tangent here. So let's come up and use this geometric constraint of being tangent, and let's make this arc tangent to that line. There you go. And then let's understand these dimensions in this orientation, okay? So scroll back up a little bit. Okay, right here on the end I can see this overall dimension of the wheel from the back to the front face was 0.25, and then this extension line is taking me right to the middle, and I even have a little extension line here trying to help me see that that also aligns. So basically I have 1/4 and 1/8 of an inch. So back to the dimension tool, and we will make this dimension 1/4 inch. And then this dimension right here to be 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now there's still a lot of blue stuff, which means, okay, things are moving on me. And so I wanted to click and drag and pull and see what is being allowed to move. And so it looks like even though I had projected that line somehow, right, I lost it in terms of that line having to stay on there. So what I really want is for this to be stuck at being horizontal. So I'm going to use my horizontal constraint. And I'm going to choose that line. Oh, it didn't like that. Let me Control Z to undo. And I'm going to hover here, or click on, let's see, what constraints do I have? There. Okay, so the orientation I'm in, that's what I was thinking. If I hover over that line segment, I can see, or click on the line, I can see geometric constraints that are there. And so this line is, it's going away on me, but hopefully you can see that's showing parallel and horizontal. But that looks vertical on our screen, right? So this, I actually need to use the vertical constraint to get it to move the way I want. Or another option would be even just to go use the perpendicular constraint if I've got this one the way I want. Well, didn't like that either. Okay, well, I'm wrong. Let's go, what did I say, vertical for the horizontal? Let's see if that does it. There you go. Okay, I don't know why the perpendicular one wouldn't snap for me. But that got it all to turn black and put it back in the orientation I want. So the last thing though is I've got to round off these edges. These were rounded edges back in here. And so I gotta scour and look around. I see this leader line. You know, leader lines are generally dimensioning arcs and circular features. That's an 1/8 of an inch radius. That's on the end. Well, that makes sense. This was a 1/4 inch diameter, so the radius is an 1/8. That's that arc going all the way across. But these are smaller little arcs. Oh, and here's this leader line, right? So I find that leader line. And it tells me that there is a 0.0625 or a 1/16 of an inch, and it's TYP. It's the typical radius used on all these little fillets. So we are going to go back in here. We're going to use the fillet tool right here, and I'm going to have to choose a corner. And now it's not, I've practiced, right? So I've built these and not built them. So yours is not going to default to that. So you're going to have to kind of click and get in here to where you can edit that. I double clicked on it to where I can edit that dimension, okay? Press enter and should be good to go. So my fillet tool is still on. I'm going to grab the next. I can choose the 2 lines. Okay, and it's kind of showing me a preview here that, and you see I get a little icon that shows my mouse with a little green check and saying, hey, click it if this is good. Yep, it's good. So I'm going to left click and it applies it. So I'm going to come from this line to this line. I'm getting a preview. That cursor is giving me the, again, the green check on the left mouse button. Yep. And then we're going to go from here to here. And that looks good. I think I've got the major outline of my wheel completed. So I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to come back to an isometric view. And I'm going to use the Revolve tool. All right, and this is going to be a new part. So that's the wheel and revolve axis. I'm going to click on that and choose the center line I had made through the axle hole. And there you go. Now it looks like we're only getting half the wheel, but that's because my section view is turned on, so that applies even to this new part. Oh, and look, it resorted back to add. So I got to watch that. I don't want to add to the train body. I want to create a new part. Okay, so I'm going to change that again in green check. And I'll turn my section view off so I can see the full wheel. There you go. And as I go and model the rest of the wheel, I may decide that this train body just kind of is in my way, and I don't really want to have to see it and work around it. So I can come over here to the parts and click the little eyeball and just hide it. And that'll maybe make this easier for me. So finishing the train wheel involves these little cutouts, okay? And adding in this little piece, this tab in which the linkage arm is going to connect. So let's do these cutouts first, and it is this view that's giving us the best view of the geometry. I see leader lines giving me arcs to understand the radius of the outer arc and the inner arc right here. These are all concentric to the center. I've already got this one taken care of, that's my through hole, and it's over here I've got dimensions giving me the degrees and spacing. So from horizontal, I can see that that first edge is 15 degrees up. These are actually 30 degrees, and the space is 30 degrees. So really, I've just got 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, right? And there's one at the top that is vertical. Okay, so if I modeled it in this orientation, the wheels are going to spin, so it really doesn't matter that much to me. But if you wanted it so that when we have, you know, looking at this orthographic from the side, if you want this to be so that you've got one straight up, we can try to do that. Okay, so to do those cutouts, I really am going to sketch here on this face. And so we're going to go here, sketch, and let's let me see. It's kind of different ways you can do it, but let's maybe, is it going to give me the center? It is. Okay. Let's make some lines for reference. You know what? I'm thinking it might be easier to do just with Onshape. As I'm learning, I'm going to go ahead and make the arc first. And now, can I get? Let me see if I can get that to be coincident to the center like that. That's kind of what I was going for. Let me add another arc, so I'm going to have 2 different dimensions, right? Just click, get it made, and then I'll drag that onto the center. Okay. Let's add my dimensions. These are arcs, so I'll get to apply the radius. The outer one is 0.625. There's always more than one way to do this. This is just the approach I'm taking. This radius was 0.375. Okay, and then I'm going to use a line coming from the middle. I'm going to connect. I connected to the big arc, right? So the little one's not, but I will use the coincident constraint, and I will get that to connect here. And on the other side, I will get that point to connect to that line. Okay, and I can actually trim away these. I just wanted those pointing in towards the center, and I'm going to dimension the 30 degrees here. Okay, and now I'm going to use another line coming up from the middle. This one is going to be vertical. This is really just a construction line for me. I'll even make it such, so I'm going to click on it, and then I can click Q on the keyboard. That makes it a construction. That's the keyboard shortcut, pressing Q for making something a construction line. I can now dimension this degree to be 15, exactly half, so that it centers it up. Okay, so I believe I've got it exactly where I want it, the correct size arcs, the correct degree spacing, and you can always move your dimensions around if you want to neaten this up, etc. But I'm good, right? So we'll click that, and we're going to do an extrude of this profile, but it's an extrude cut, so I'm going to go to remove. And the merge scope is part 5, which is correct. I hadn't renamed my part 5 the wheel yet, but that is correct. And it says blind, a blind depth. This part of the wheel is only 1/8 of an inch thick, so I could do that, or I could not use a depth, and I could say to next, just to get it to go through the whole part in case I ever go and change maybe the thickness of that, so then I wouldn't have to re-edit the extrude cut distance. Okay, there you go. So we've got a single cutout. Next we want to do is we want to pattern this, and right here next to the hole tool, this is your pattern tool. You can do a linear pattern, a circular, or curved pattern. We're going to do a circular pattern, and the entity to pattern is this guy right here. Let me Okay, I was worried that it was not getting that feature because I was getting this yellow selected line around the outside, but it looks like it's doing what I want. Let's see, I want 6 of these, equal spacing, a full revolution. Let's see if this does what I want. Yeah, it may not. Okay, it's like filled in, so I think it is revolving the whole wheel. So it's kind of showing that there's cutout. So I need to hit pause and figure that out. Okay guys, so sorry I had to hit pause and I figured it out. Let's go to it again. We're going to hit the circular pattern tool, and right here there's a drop down that says what kind of pattern is it? Are we going to pattern the part, or are we going to pattern other things like a feature? And I wanted to pattern a feature, not the whole part. So that was it. Right here, drop down, feature pattern. And I'm not going to edit that mistake out because I want you guys to see that I'm learning like you as I go. It's worth it though. I think this use of Onshape is awesome. You guys having the ability to learn a CAD program that is really powerful and to get to do it at home on your computers, tablets, whatever, is just great. So it's a feature pattern. And now I got to choose the feature, and I'm going to choose right here in the browser. It's a little easier. Extrusion 6 it's called, and the axis, I'm just going to choose this circle right here, and I want a full revolution, but I want 6 of them. Alright, axis pattern, like didn't remember that. Okay. There you go. And it's the, oh, what's wrong? Okay, here, let me get rid of this one, maybe. Delete. Let me go back in. What's happening? What's happening? It had worked for me, so let's delete this. Let's start fresh. Alright, circular pattern. It's going to be, maybe I lost the ability to click remove last time after I chose this, so remove, and it's a feature pattern. I don't know. Feature pattern, feature 2 pattern, so that extrusion. The axis to go around is the center there, and I wanted 6 of them. There you go. Okay, somewhere in the algorithm of what I clicked, and maybe hadn't cleared out the first one, I don't know, but there you go. We've got now our wheel with the cutouts. The next thing we've got to do is add the tab to the front for the linkage arm. So let's understand that geometry a little bit. Oh, I've got a Zoom meeting that's going to start here in a second. Let me go back. It's in here. Okay, so I need to scroll up. This is a curved surface back here, so I can't really, I'm not going to want to try to start on there. I actually want to start out here and then extrude back and basically tell Onshape to extrude to the next feature, and then it'll perfectly kind of match up to that curved surface. So I need an offset plane that comes out this distance, this 0.375, to kind of get my work plane, and then I will do this part back towards the wheel and then do this part back this way. And that whole depth does not match this extrusion, so don't just do a cylinder and extrude that out. If you pay attention to the depth here of that hole, that is deeper. That hole is going to run into that bottom cylinder, and so we'll kind of do a cylinder, a small cylinder, and then make the hole. Okay, get that? So I'm going to create a work plane. It'll be an offset plane from here, and it's going to be a distance of 0.375. I'm going to make a, let's see, just get a circle here. We'll dimension it into place in a second. And I'm going to project that so I have the center, and I'm going to make, let's see if horizontal works for me in this orientation. I want these to be horizontal from each other. Yep, okay. And let's get our dimensions. So this circle has right here, this leader line, it has a diameter of 0.25. And right here, you got to use this view and this view. The center to the center of my wheel is 0.7. All right, and I had made it horizontally constrained the centers, so we should be good there. I'm going to extrude that circle in the opposite direction, and the distance is going to be to next. And this is going to add to the wheel, so add is correct. See the merge scope part 5 is my wheel. Alright, and now I'm just going to do a new sketch right on this face. I don't have to create a work plane. I've already got a flat surface, and I think it's going to let me find the center right there. I just need a concentric circle. I need to know what is the diameter of that. Smaller one, so that edge right there is 1/8 of an inch. So can I just double click on it? Nope, my circle tool is still turned on. 0.125. And we are going to extrude, so I'm done with my sketch. We're going to extrude that little circle out only 1/8 of an inch. Oh, my Zoom meeting's starting. Okay, I'm going to hit pause and come back to this later. Okay, he still hasn't started the meeting, so I'm trying to finish this off. Alright, so that's that, and then I'm going to do one more sketch on the surface, and I'm going to get a point right in the middle. That point is going to drive my hole tool, and now I'm going to grab my hole, have it there. Oh, come on, I'll join you in a second. what is that dimension for that little hole in there is a 1/16 of an inch, and it's a 1/4 inch deep. So let's see, 0.0625, a 1/16 of an inch in diameter and 0.25 deep. And voila, we are done. That is your, where's the plane 5? I'm going to hide the visibility of that plane. That is your wheel, and it is done. We can rename it the wheel. Just copy. Can't type. And you can make it a new color. I don't know what color you guys would like. Who knows? How about purple? And I will make my train body visible again, and there you go. You can see I've got a wheel. Now we could, my little trouble with modeling or patterning, I could try to use a linear pattern, and I could pattern the part inside here if I want all the parts. I don't have to model it again, so I can do a part pattern. So I'm not exactly sure. I can't even tell you what the real benefit of doing that is if we're going to later do an assembly, but I'm open to learning as this is all new. Hope you guys are doing great. We'll catch up on the next video. Take care.